Did I say it right?
Yes, you got it. Great job. Thank you.
Excellent. I try to say things phonetically, and it works about half the time in English. So let's see, introductions. Well, welcome to 1 Million Cups. It looks like everyone is a repeat customer other than Michael. We all know each other pretty well, but for Michael's sake, so he has an idea of who we are and what we do around here, who would like to introduce themselves? A quick 10-second intro of who you are and what you do.
Leander should introduce yourself.
Leander.
Apparently, I'm the only female
You are.
here
Oh,
today,
wow.
so I'll introduce myself. So I'm Leander Foster, the face in the camera, as well as right here. And hi, Michael. And I work with women who run their own coaching or alternative wellness businesses and are struggling to turn their sales into profits. So I'm on the finance side and help them keep more what they make.
Nice.
Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
You bet. I'm Stephen Krause, and I help business owners get from where they are to what comes next by helping with the buying and selling process of businesses themselves. So that's me.
And Mike Bennett.
Good morning. I'm Mike Bennett. I'm retired, and I help companies do their financial modeling.
Excellent.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. All right. I'm Dane Johnson. I'm the lead host for 1 Million Cups Northern Colorado. And here we aim to educate, inspire, and connect the entrepreneurial community of Northern Colorado, letting people present their businesses as Michael and John are today. Every now and then we get some education, and it's a chance for us to provide feedback to presenters, help them as they're growing and going through the entrepreneurial journey, and also to provide connection. This group is amazingly connected for its small size, and so being able to connect presenters to the broader Northern Colorado community is always a great outcome of this group. So our two speakers today, we're going to start with Michael. He's down in Daytona Beach, Florida. He's a third-generation entrepreneur. Looking forward to hearing what you've got in store for us today, Michael, and also about those previous generations. What did they do? And we'll go ahead and let you get started, and I'll give you a 5-minute warning. I'll just put my hand up, and you'll have 1 minute left after that.
Perfect. Would you be able to empower me to share my screen, please? Oh,
Yes.
You know what? There it is. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Marcus?
Marcus, what are you doing?
Turn that on for him.
Got it.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, yep. Give me just a second, jumping over and then going full screen. You guys should see my main slide right now, right? All right, I'm going to set my timer too so I don't go over. So thank you so much for having me. As you heard, I'm Michael Zaharios, the founder of Coastal Auto Connection, a third-generation entrepreneur born and raised in the Daytona Beach, Florida area. Really appreciate you guys accepting my invitation, or my application rather, to present what I'm doing with this company that's actually servicing clients all over the United States and even the world. I actually came from today, my 1 Million Cups chapter here in Daytona, so it's nice to have 2 1 million cups in one day. I've chatted with some other 1 million cuppers, and they've told me they've done 3 or 4 in one day, so we'll see if we can beat that record one of these days. But basically, you know, what we're doing with our company is providing the very best vehicles for our clients, fully sorted, showroom new condition, turnkey and go. What I found through my work in the marketplace is that the buyers we're dealing with, they don't want to have to find a mechanic, an upholstery person, a painter, a tire person. They want to buy the car and they want to be able to enjoy it. And the cars that we're focused specifically on are from the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. These are enthusiast vehicles, many of them with manual transmissions, low mileage, clean histories, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But how can 1MC help me? No doubt, I love 1MC because of the supporting entrepreneurs, you know, supporting each of you and folks that aspire to be in business. You're going to see in a couple of slides that our business relies on other entrepreneurs. We don't have everything that we do in-house. We have some things in-house, but we rely on other entrepreneurs that we outsource work to. And I can tell you, in the car world, there are a lot of folks not coming up in the trades of mechanics, paint, and upholstery work. And so we need more of those folks so that we don't find our business in a position where we don't have access to talented trades that are necessary to make happen what we do make happen. Also, where else can I share my message? You know, 1MC has been a great network for me to apply and present all over the country. I'm doing that, but there are certainly other stages that I would love to get on and share my story and a little bit of my knowledge and history about business and entrepreneurship. And referrals. Referrals are greatly appreciated. And what I mean by this, certainly, I would love to do business with any of you that may be looking for an enthusiast vehicle that's fully sorted, but also a lot of how I find the vehicles to buy and take through our process come from referrals. So folks that may know somebody that has one of these types of cars that we're looking for in their garage, or maybe mom or dad passed away and you're just not quite sure what to do with the car. Certainly would appreciate you reaching out to me and seeing if we can do some business together. This is, you heard it mentioned that I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So basically what's happened is I've grown up around cars my entire life. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA. I'm actually sitting in front of this facility right now. My family has been in the business of automotive repair for 42 years in Daytona Beach, and I'm involved in that side of our business. But a number of years ago, I said, you know, there has to be another vertical that we can get into. We have the infrastructure of the mechanic side locked down pretty well. How can we leverage that? And so that's where we applied to become a used car dealer in Florida and have been buying these cars, rejuvenating them, and selling them all over the United States. So that's, our customers come from all over the U.S. The problem that we're solving, again, is to really provide our client the very best example from the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, where they don't have to do anything except get in that car, turn the key, and go. How do I keep the lights on in my business? This is essentially how we make money. We do have our own inventory that we source, bring to Daytona Beach, take through our rejuvenation process, and then ultimately sell to our end customer. But what we found doing that and building relationships with clients is sometimes they call and say, hey, I'm looking for this particular car. We may not have that in inventory, so we'll source the car for them and either take it through rejuvenation, or we'll send it directly to them if they want to take it through the process themselves. We do a lot of work with brokering, so helping people buy and sell cars. Doing this for a number of years now, we know the process of how to sell a car and what people are looking for. So we've leveraged that wisdom and then offer it as a service back to different clients that we're working with. Much like you would hire a contractor to work on your house, you could consider us a car contractor. That network that we've built of painters and upholstery and tires and all those things that go into a car, we're able to leverage that network as the contractor or the quarterback for our clients that want to send us their car from anywhere in the United States. Certainly doing business all over the U.S. We are shipping a lot of cars. So we now have relationships with transporters and can have a car picked up anywhere in the United States and sit anywhere in the world using the networks that we have. And then you heard me mention that the speaking is something that I'm wanting to lean even more heavily into as a revenue model for the business, is to get out and share my story on as many stages as possible. No doubt, our business's competitive advantage is in our supply chain. These are 16 other entrepreneurs that we work with to provide a number of services that empower our business to be successful. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without these different businesses and business owners that I have built relationships with and leverage their talents so that they can be a part of what we're trying to do with these vehicles. A couple of examples as we come up on the 6-minute mark here. This was a 2005 BMW one owner, 20,000 miles, came out of California, that we brought to Daytona, did some rejuvenation on it, and then ultimately sold it at auction for a record sale price. 1991 BMW with 165,000 miles, very rare car, 1 year only. Acura TL from 2005. What made this car so rare was the fact that it had a 6-speed manual transmission. Honda actually stopped making this car because it was so powerful. So to find one, it's almost impossible. As I wrap up here, again, how can 1MC help me? Supporting entrepreneurs is definitely the biggest and top thing I see being out in business. Where else can I speak? And then any referrals that you have, I would certainly appreciate. Here's my contact information. And again, I thank all of you for the opportunity to come in and share a little bit about my story and what we're doing.
Cool.
6:25. I'm sorry. Thanks for the extra 25 seconds. Sorry for going over just a little bit.
That's okay. I didn't start the clock until I actually sat down. So you
Oh.
beat it by 30 seconds.
Great.
All right. Who wants to get us started with some feedback, some questions?
I always have to ask, how are you different?
How are you different?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And what I can tell you is that the way I was raised was with honesty and integrity. And I think that's what really makes us different. When people decide to do business with us, decide to buy a car from us, they're doing it over the internet. They're doing it based on pictures and videos and FaceTime calls. And so instilling, the highest level of confidence in the client that we're dealing with, letting he or she know that this car is going to be even better when you see it in person, that everything that you see here in pictures and videos is going to be even better when it's there physically in your hands, that we're going to carry you through the entire process with no pressure, no ill feelings on your side. It's that honesty and integrity that really makes us different in what we do and how we carry ourselves. I learned that from my dad and my grandfather, growing up being around the automotive repair side of the business. And I said, when we start this dealer side of the business, let's carry forward those same morals, values, and integrity as we go forward. And so, car dealers have a certain stigma. I don't want to get into that, but I think you all know, what that is. And a lot of times people are afraid to deal with dealers because they think they're going to get taken advantage of or sold a false bill of goods. And that's just not who we are. We're 100% transparent. And we care deeply not only about the cars, but also about the customers that we're dealing with, because we recognize that a lot of folks that are buying these cars, this isn't a daily driver situation. These are a second, third, fourth, fifth car for these folks. And so the likelihood that they'll want to come back and do business with us in the future, if we treat them right from the onset, is pretty high. So that lifetime value of customer means a lot to us, and we just really take a great amount of care to make sure you're getting everything that you want and expect, and even more.
Michael, at James' point, that question is key for these types of presentations, and I would challenge you to shorten that up a lot. And I think that any business like yours, their response is going to be the honesty and integrity. So find a way to differentiate yourself and really get people to get them sucked into Coastal Auto Connect for whatever reason, whether it's financial or something, but shorten that up a lot.
Fair
Steve?
enough.
So just to follow up on that real quick, and kind of dovetail into it, is a story would really help. Walk through the process of sourcing that car for a customer who's looking for something specific. And what am I going to go through as a customer? What is that process going to look like? And so that we know what to expect. I think if you were to be able to go through, pick maybe not a real customer, because maybe that's not appropriate, but if you pick a hypothetical and walk through how they went through the process and how they got their car and how they felt when they had the keys in their hand and they started that engine for the first time. I think that would help go back to the prior question, really kind of, how are you different? Because you can incorporate what makes you unique into that storytelling process. And it also helps us understand what to expect and personalizes it. So that's something I would recommend.
Great. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. Have you ever
People love
taken
stories.
someone's grandfather's old car that was sitting in the garage for 40 years and fixed it up for him?
Yes, we do a lot of that work in the service side of our business. The dealer side, it does happen as well. So yes, we do that, and people talk about how they always wish the car was running, right? It's been sitting there for 40 years. So once we're able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and deliver them something that they're proud of, and they can drive and take to car shows and put their daughter or their grandkid in the seat and go have some good memories, certainly there's a lot of value there.
Other comments, questions? Marcus.
Just a thought following up on some of the comments in this room of shortening up that story and having a compelling story. I mean, there's an entire TV channel. It's HGTV, which is your dream house, right? You're in the business of the dream car. It's what someone has wanted for 20 years, or it's what they first saw on the lot when they were 22 and they've waited 20 or 30 years to have it. I mean, foundationally to me, I mean, and you'll take care of every step, right? The title, the repairs, the tires. You're in the business of the dream car.
I love that. That's really great. That's what I love about 1MC is being able to, I mean, I don't know you guys, right? You're seeing me for the first time and I'm hearing you for the first time. So yeah, that's huge. The dream car. I love that.
Good one. I like your analogy of the general contractor for cars too. You just handle the whole process. Your presentation made me think of both my father-in-law and my dad, who bought fixer-uppers, and they're both auto mechanic guys, but they take them apart and they never put it back together again. And have a body of a BMW sitting in this shop for 10 years. Actually, no, we're at 20 years now. 20 years now, hasn't driven it. Or my father-in-law, who just started the repair process, it was going too slow, so he took it down to Mexico to get it done cheaply, and it came back a piece of junk. So I think there's so many ways to connect with an audience on this presentation. So many people have those stories, or those overly ambitious fathers-in-law. Fathers-in-law. James?
To pick up on that and what Marcus said, I'm a car guy and I've got one sitting in the garage for 10 years. But the emotional connection that people form around cars, like my first car was 1973 Datsun 240Z silver that I bought from John Bon Jovi's brother.
Wow.
And I desperately want another one of those. So, you know, tapping into that part of the market, I think would serve you very well. Because, you know, if you're into cars, there's always a story that goes along with the car and why you want that one.
Did you get down the
Yeah.
year model of that, Michael?
Yeah, I can give you the.
Those Datsuns are not easy to come by these days, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And, you know, for me, I've done a lot of time talking to my customers. So, you know, you'll see me at car shows, and we're very blessed in the Daytona area. We have some of the largest car shows happening in the country, but we also have small ones where, you know, BMW guys and gals get together. So, you know, I have purposely spent a lot of time with my customer, finding out what their needs and wants are, and then coupling that with going online to see what's happening in the marketplace around these cars that we're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, we have to make money in order to keep the doors open and the lights on and keep doing this passion that we have. So that research piece has been huge for us. So thanks for sharing your love for Datsuns, and you may see a couple come out of Coastal Auto Connection.
I'm just thinking, like, based on what Marcus was saying about HGTV, that you should add that to your revenue stream. Like, why not pitch them going through the whole process of somebody saying, I want this specific car and why it's important to them, and everybody gets pulled into the emotional story of it. You find the car and it goes through the fix up and all the different people, you know, it gets the word out of supporting the entrepreneurs, because you're going to this person's shop for upholstery and you're going to this person's shop for whatever. Like, add it to your revenue stream, man.
Kind of like do
Anybody know any contacts at HGTV in the room?
My guess is you probably go to the website and pitch the idea.
But you don't want to pitch to the network, because I've looked into this. You want to pitch to the production
The
companies.
producer.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a couple auto channels out there that has like overhauling and all the different types of rebuild shows. So that might be a way to run with it.
Marcus?
Yep. I've seen those shows. Chip Foose and some things that he's done. Yep.
So two other things. One thing I was curious about, do you specialize only in restoration, or will you do customization as well? Because I know that's two different kinds of customers. That is my first question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And we right now are focused on OEM. So stock is really what we're looking at. Not much, if any, customization is happening with what we're doing. That is a whole nother market, and the OEM factor is huge right now for a lot of the cars that we're buying and selling. You know,
Well,
and I mean, it comes.
if you can differentiate yourself on the OEM side, because there's a lot of customization shops.
Well, and also too, was looking at your list of suppliers, right? I mean, if you've already got a good mechanic and you've already got a good tire shop and you've already got so many of your suppliers lined up, at some point, it seems like you've got a lot of the pieces that if you wanted to dabble in customization, you wouldn't be that far off base that it's possible, right? It's not an undiscovered country. My more out there idea for you is OEM on things other than cars at some point, right? I mean, I come from the upper Midwest, and I mean, it's maybe just a Minnesota, Wisconsin thing, but there are now like classic snowmobile shows, right? And I mean, and it's gonna be much the same process, you know. Credibility being the Florida shop that repairs snowmobiles might be a little bit hard. But yeah, for you guys, I kind of wonder about jet skis. And a buddy of mine was not long ago from back home was looking for a 90s Honda four-wheeler, and he just can't find it. And I'm not sure how mature some of the classic or OEM world is for some of those small engines, but they've definitely been around long enough now that I would assume you'll start to see some of that same passion. Maybe a much smaller market, but I would guess it would be there.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I mean, what's old is new again, right? You know, and I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we've defined ourselves as OEM quality, and people, you know, our customers like that. We had a guy come down, buy a car from Canada because the car was all original, completely original. I mean, even down to some of the smallest things inside the interior, and we had all the records for it and everything that he was looking for. He flew down from Canada. I picked him up at the airport here. He drove the car 3,500 miles back, called me, and he was like, Michael, this was an amazing experience for me. I mean, what a story behind coming to Florida, making the drive back across the United States to Saskatchewan, Canada, and just really amazing. So to me, that was one of the biggest tests for what we're capable of doing, because a lot of the vehicles we sell go on a transporter and then are delivered. But when somebody's going to come to your location and drive 3,500 miles in a car that you promised to them is 100% capable, that was quite the test. So I think we're going to stick with OEM. That's our sweet spot. That's what people are getting to know us as. And we'll let some of those other entrepreneurs that want to go after the four-wheelers and the motorcycles and things like that.
That's great. Well, Michael, your presentation, your speaking style was fantastic. You told us a lot of stories in the Q&A afterwards. Pull those into the presentation. To James's question at the beginning, what makes you different? Make sure you're talking about that. And the last thing I would throw in your presentation, especially to 1 Million Cups, is this is a third generation business. Where are you going next? What's your future vision?
Yeah, there's so much opportunity. It's hard to put a finger on it. You know, right now, I would definitely say that there are some things that I wish we had in-house that we don't. So finding the right capability to do that and the right fit for our culture that we have at our facility is the challenge. So, you know, right now we're working on some things.
Cool.
I wish I had a clearer answer, but that's just where we are. This is entrepreneurship, right? I mean, so, you know, one day we're tracking straight down this way, and then all of a sudden we've got new opportunities coming. So we'll see. But I'm optimistic that, you know, who knows, maybe one day we will be on HGTV, or maybe we'll have our own YouTube channel and, you know, be drawing in followers and become influencers in that way.
Well, thanks for joining us, Michael. Great presentation.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
All right, well, hang around. We've got one more presentation. We'll take a quick 2-minute break, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll be back in a minute.
Hey, Michael, if you have anybody looking for a sweet 2005 Dodge Stratus, you let me know, okay?
right up front.
Oh, right over here.
Absolutely.
Just-
Send the referrals my way.
Because
And
I'm
what I
just saying.
found is these shoes that are good for snow are not good for ice.
No,
There's not enough rubber on the bottom, you know, and it's like, it's slick.
you need an actual, like, you know, the
Crampons.
yeah.
Yeah,
big
steel, you know.
But as long as I was ice skating, it was fine. It was just
I know
like-
you have to just kind of shuffle.
I got the
Yeah.
card from that. My wife said you're.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was right.
And my mother-in-law, it was funny. I was
Oh,
like,
it's not all.
you know, drop me in.
Body and the chassis are still
She's like, no.
Chris,
I-
you
I'm just
showed
gonna
up
drive
after
to
all.
your place because.
I had to get out of
the
there.
roads
I'll
are
show you.
The sidewalks are.
You were the first one telling us I'm not doing it.
And
not
so she
coming.
didn't want to block on the
Dude,
sidewalk.
it's like COVID.
If I could go garage to garage, I'm good.
nutty out there.
So She decided to
Nutty?
come over.
Hard bad places where
Was
those,
it bad?
when you get to
from
the
your
corner
place?
and they have those
I mean,
little things.
The main
you know,
roads
they're
aren't
supposed
bad,
to
but
be
you
for
know, you
traction.
gotta
Yeah,
watch-
yeah, yeah.
going down
Then
the
it was
main road,
like
you gotta
no
watch
rubber.
people
It was like, there
sliding
was
into
no
the side.
contact.
You
Like,
just-
whoa.
you
You know, it's like-
Yeah, I just walked on the grass where there was grass exposed. And I was just like, yeah,
Anyway, we may want to just stay
yeah,
here.
we could just park here.
But I told you, we got the team, the whole team.
Yeah, that's something.
Jennifer's gonna lead. And you're gonna like them all, you know.
Revving to go. I just did the formal launch yesterday with the development team.
Now, this presentation.
Together some things. They're
It's not
we got
really a pit.
awesome UI UX lady on it. She has a background in marketing as well as developer behavior. So it's just like, I was reading your notes, and I'm like, I nailed that.
Well, what was interesting is,
Yeah.
I as an advisor was, you know, and once again, if you look at how many females were in the room, how many males?
Original equipment manufacturer.
So it means
They got it. I'm like, I don't know.
So, you know, I guess maybe your persona is gonna be Sally Sue, you know, I don't know, you know, who, but, you know, I was looking a little bit more on
Easy
competition
peasy.
last couple. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I was like, so I'm walking over here.
Presentation.
Not to know about competition, because I hear competition a lot, but I walk down the road and I.
Heard you talk about this. I'm excited to actually
I
see
go
what
over
it is.
here.
This is actually just one of the.
Genesis and like, you know, the fitness sector has just all.
It's the only way you
over
survive.
again, you know, there's-
There's all these sub-segments, right? There's
Exactly.
bodybuilding, you know, so you don't wanna hang out, you know.
Very well.
And this here-
I'm gonna get big muscle.
You guys
Right.
like.
Exactly.
There's
I don't go there.
Exactly.
some tied into the Marshall Fire.
Have a small community that they work out and have somebody that kind of.
Some like
No, that's fine.
individual workouts. I don't wanna do some
That's fine.
have to have a buddy.
The reason I want to show it.
You know, so, no, you gotta know that segment.
So
Get the segment
they have
right.
workouts,
Yeah.
predominantly British, German, and Japanese.
That's where I'm just like, competition is, they're everywhere, and, you know, I
This
don't
right
have
here.
to.
Very, you know what I mean?
But
My dad was in Florida.
I think that there's a few
Honestly,
things
my dad
that
would probably.
as
take
we
a year
develop,
to
we
week
might
just
actually
to
have
make a
some
little money on the side, to get out of the house.
Also, litigation in 6 minutes, 50
And
seconds.
that's where he left off his bill.
Right, I'm not-
That's where he left off his bill.
I'll find one.
Oh, yeah, for 6 minutes, I was.
Measure, right?
Well, wait, to the right.
Right.
Right, and all the way down. We can wait until he gets back. I'm all bigger. I'm gonna
Right.
Where it's like,
work out this hip.
that was what-
Sitting down tonight.
Right, right. Really struggling.
After your advice last week, I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah.
Business model
Maybe not
canvas
yet.
for each revenue stream of the coffee
What is there to
business.
look forward to?
You know what? Actually, I'll show you mine. I got right
And then I saw.
I
the
think what I'm
points
gonna
for
do
that.
is,
Like, okay,
At some point.
maybe,
coffee
maybe
roasting,
there's,
so
you know,
Put a cap.
there's time to get some more accomplished.
So much.
10 pounds a week. You know?
Right,
I mean, you
but
gotta
still,
be
I mean, you know, this will show you
20 years.
where you might be.
Because I'm
able-
stem cell back in large scale unicorn blood harvest.
Right.
I'm not worried about, no, I know, quite
That's what I
frankly,
like
I'm
about
not
the
worried
canvas
about
is you can
dying.
break that
More
down.
just
so-
like,
And then, do you have,
you
I'll show you
have
the other
enough time
piece
to
of that
reach
too,
your
the management
dreams.
piece.
you know,
Where's
because
the whole
at
company?
20, you
Oh,
had
yeah.
40
So
years
like
to
for
reach your
mine, I
dreams.
got the
Now
whole
it's like,
1472 company.
Well, that's why you gotta enjoy where you're
Well, I
at.
give the
because you never
example,
know, you might
but,
die tomorrow.
I know.
Otherwise.
I do. I
break
try to
down
balance
the-
that, you know, like as an actuary, I had friends who studied.
All right, we'll go ahead and let John get started. Everyone got their coffee ready to
Everyone
go?
got coffee, caffeinated, ready to have a good time?
Go, John.
All right, we're not talking about Drago Cannon. I'll just do 6 minutes of stand-up.
Oh, there you go.
It better be good.
Oh, yeah, that is the fun, interesting fact about John is, well, his first job, he said, was installing cabinets at the Budweiser plant up here, but also a stand-up comic.
Oh, yeah.
So stand-up carpentry comic.
That's a mouthful. But we're not gonna talk about carpentry at all today. We're gonna talk about my business. A couple years ago, a few of us here in the crowd was around when I did my original business, 1472 Protection, which is a wildfire property protection company where I've designed a system to where it'll protect the property from wildfire. It's an exterior system that goes on structures and out onto the property itself. But today, we're gonna focus on the Drago Cannon. The Drago Cannon's been around for about 1.5 years, and it's a company out of Quebec, Canada, Drago Industries. And this cannon here saves water, time, and resources. You know, and today's asked for the president, just some general feedback. This is just more or less an educational / presentation. So Drago Cannon comes in, you got your 3 different ones. You got your trailer pulled, which is good for your volunteer fire department. They can drag it all over the place, or you also have it on the fire engine for your cities. You have your stationary version of it, which is good for airports and refineries. Some of the uses here, the first one there, protect cooling use of vaporized water or water mist to create heat, create that heat shield. I mean, how many times we've been by a fire where it's really super hot, it'd be nice to have some type of barrier, when you're dealing with a magnesium fire, 3,200 degrees, it gets pretty toasty. And the drought water and the Drago Cannon will have that mist shield where it will cut that heat in half, cooling with liquefied gas spill. This here, how many of y'all remember the big spill out on I-25 last summer? Down by 402, and it was closed for a day. And they had a tanker roll over on its side and spill a couple 100 gallons of fuel all over the place. And, and here, depending on what it is, you can use that with the gel or foam. You can run it through the Drago Cannon and it would cover that whole area within seconds. I mean, that's the big thing about between the Drago Cannon and the regular hose. Hose will take a while to cover an area. Drago Cannon, because it shoots 200 feet out, 50-foot mist. I mean, you just go like this, you just cover the football field. Very good defensive weapon, or defensive tool, not weapon. Sorry, I went military there. Tank cooling, this is where the refineries come in place. I don't know how many of y'all ever been on a refinery, worked at a refinery or been to a refinery. They have a lot of nasty little things. And if if they have a tank of a chemical that has a very low boiling point, let's say the deluge system doesn't work, they can pull the Drago Cannon there, hook it up, and it'll do the same thing. For surface cooling protection, case in point here with fire, house fire, the fire department, you got house fire here and you got 2 out here that are not on fire. Well, you can use that Drago Cannon and cover the other 2 houses, protecting it from that fire so they don't catch on fire with the gel. And, protection by insulation oxygen supply, cut to the fuel surface with foam preventing, like I said, with the fuel truck. And here's a different radiation radiuses we can shoot at. So, and wow, quick. With this, You can see the optimum is the purple there, where it's 30 degrees at 260 pounds per square inch, which is probably gonna run about 425 gallons per minute. So you get a nice 200-foot shot. Once again, this is approved, patent and approved through Texas Tech University. You know, some advantages here. You know, the cannon itself is 32 inches around, circumferences with 14 to 16 high power nozzles. One Drago cannon equals 5 hoses. So if you can see here we got the Drago cannon. Here we got the little 2.5-inch hose. See the difference? So this here equals 5 of those. Can be used on all types of fire. Can be used for hazardous spills, hazardous waste spills. Knocking down let's say there's a hydrochloric acid spill, and we can put the foam down, cover up the fumes. There's the range. And then here we got a little short video. Uh-oh, come on. Coming over. Oh, no. There we go. Here we show it in action. So we got a fully engulfed house here. See how long it takes to put it out. I mean, here, you know, we just had the Marshall fires. Very tragic. And the only way I could see fighting a Marshall fire with the winds is with this. And we would be upwind shooting downwind. Because we tried going straight into that Category 3 hurricane wind, there's no way, even with this, as high powerful as that, would do it. But I mean, you know, another thing here, so you got one person running a Drago cannon compared to having 2 fire engines on site and having 15 men, so their resources saved. And then here in the next 10 seconds, the fire will be out. Because it's going from the brown smoke to the white smoke. That's how you can tell when the fire's getting put out, is when the fire or the smoke goes from brown to white. And then, well, the last one we'll just throw up there is just the this is that one right there. So here's my information. You know, the ask here is just general feedback. Did it have a good flow to it? Did it make sense to you, or was it all over the place?
All right, thanks, John. I wonder what you did.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm just curious, because this is different from what you've been talking about
Right.
the last couple of years. Are you talking about installing a stationary one for these on wildfire, like wild?
No, I'm gonna actually sell these to the fire departments.
Okay, so now
It's
you're
another
working-
stream, another revenue stream.
Okay,
That's
so
part of
you,
the company.
okay, so this is, you're selling these now rather than installing them. for
Well, I'm
mountain
still doing the
properties,
systems.
But not using this.
Right.
Is the feedback you're wanting today, like you would give this presentation to a fire department?
Right.
Chris?
Yes, Chris.
I think the main thing that I missed here was the cost benefit.
I
What is this?
purposely kept, oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, what is this cost compared to the current technologies they're using?
Okay.
You know, and how does that? cost
And
benefit work?
I purposely kept that out just for the 6 minutes because I wanted to explain everything.
Okay.
But the cost benefit is instead of having 2 engines with 5 or 6 hoses, you have, you know, which equals up to probably about 17 people. And this here you have a crew of 3. And it'll do the same job. And that's the cost benefit right there. Yes, Ms. Elandra.
Okay, so Cindy's not here. I blinked on her name for a minute.
Good, oh, I'm getting to Cindy, I love
So
it.
you know what I'm gonna say on that slide that had all the words.
Right.
Like just
Get
make,
rid of it.
just make those pictures because the words did not add any value for me.
Okay,
So add pictures of each thing. So have a picture of a truck on its side with oil everywhere. If you can
Okay.
find one of those. Find a picture of, get a picture from our, what is it, the Marshall Fire? Is that the one that we just burned all the subdivision? Because that in itself is like, if you could have stopped that,
yeah.
you came into 12 houses burning and then you blew this across this whole part so that it didn't keep going like that. The cost benefit, I think would hopefully
Right, there
just
would
be
be,
like
yep.
non-questionable.
Okay, I'll do that, yeah, because that's one thing when I was putting this together, I was like, do I want a lot of words or do I want a lot of
No,
pictures?
pictures.
Yes, sir.
What about cons? So like you need to speak to cons so that way you're able to come across as an expert. So like one of the things that I know happened down in Boulder is they nearly ran out of water.
Right.
So I do not know the water usage of this one compared to a typical, if it's 1-to-1, you were talking about it's like 5-to-1. So you're constantly having to plug into a fixed water source, I think. But
You can
that's
do it
stuff
off a
you-
tanker too.
Yeah, so just talking about that and then
Right.
talking
And I
about
mean,
how
that's
fast.
when I was putting this together. I mean, I could have, and I was just trying to just do a quick 6-minute overview. But when I do sit down with the fire chiefs, it's gonna be about an hour and a half.
Well, I think he's probably gonna make a decision in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where the big, yes, sir.
I had a very similar question, you know, if you had a standard tanker,
Uh-huh.
how many minutes? Like, if you're spitting out how much, 400 gallons or a minute?
You can, it's anywhere between 250 gallons per minute. all the way up
What's a
to,
typical fire truck?
750.
How many gallons you got in that fire truck?
Yep, you know, you got the tankers. I mean, we can get a big 5,000 gallon tanker, which is pretty good size.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that if I was a fireman, I'd be I immediately went to that.
Uh-huh.
This is great, but how long can I run this? Because I don't know if a hydrant a single hydrant can get this flow rate. you
Yes,
know?
it can.
It can?
Actually, because hydrant runs at 648.
Okay.
So we, leave it around 500, that thing will run, and with the fire there, that was at 250 gallons per minute at 40 PSI.
So anyway, I would add that in
And then-
somewhere that. hey,
Right,
this is-
yeah. I get what you're saying, because, when I was putting this together, I was like, well, okay, do I want to go this way? No. And I was like, I'll just do a general overview because 6 minutes is quick.
Brian.
Brian,
Yeah, John, I had a couple of things. First, don't forget that you're presenting hybrid. I felt like by being remote, I was losing something.
okay,
For example, right now, I can't see you on any camera.
He was making eye contact with you, Brian.
Well, I couldn't see anything.
can you see me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
The other piece with it is I didn't understand until you answered the question of how you were involved with the Drago cannon, why you were giving this presentation. Right, so you need to be saying up front, hey, we're 1472 protection, we fight fires. One of the things that we help people obtain is this.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last thing I would say is you're going to have to convince somebody to sit down and have that hour-and-a-half conversation with you.
Yep.
If you can't convince somebody in 3 to 6 minutes to have that hour-and-a-half conversation, they're never going to get some of these things that you're saying, oh, we don't need, I was going to include these in the hour-and-a-half. What you presented in this was an interesting technology, but I don't know why somebody would call you versus calling Drago.
Okay,
So those are the pieces that I would say.
all right, thank you, Brian. Much appreciated.
Cool.
My brother-in-law is the chief of a volunteer fire department.
Mhm.
And just to go back to the cost issue, I think that the presentation would be really great if you said, what's the initial cost to buy this? And what's the process that, if you give them a process to raise the money to do
Right.
it, it's a lot easier. They spent 5 years trying to get a fire truck.
Right.
And it's a very, very long process because they kind of sat back and waited for the state and all that sort of thing. If you give them a
Yes.
proactive process, it would help.
I mean, I know it's like to try and get a new fire truck for a volunteer fire department. It's a pain in the butt. But it's worth it. But I mean, with this here, just to cost it, the Drago cannon by itself is 250,000. And then all the way up to the fire truck is probably between 1.2, 1.5 million, depending on how much customization you want to do with it.
Right, so you've got to say, here's how you raise $250,000.
Right. Yes.
I think for your presentation, the Marshall Fire gives you an excellent entry point to make your case of why they need this, and to James's point, even the cost piece, but you could use that as your story of like, they lost pressure. So I'm assuming that you've got something on here that's creating, they lost water pressure, so getting water. But just going through each place of like where it was the perfect storm, basically, and how this could have alleviated the perfect storm so that maybe you only lost 100 houses.
Instead of 1,000.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that that would make an excellent entry point for as the story. So the same feedback that we gave Michael, use that as the story and say, here's what happened, here's how this works, here's what happened, here's how this would fix it, here's what happened, here's how this would fix it.
I think for this short presentation, a lot of great feedback. Is it James, right? To James's point, like throwing in the cons. This whole 3 to 6 minute presentation is about building your credibility, not selling the technology yet.
Right, and that's why I said this was here was, okay.
So, and with all those tactics, I've been on the receiving end of these pitches as an engineer in industrial facilities. Only speak to the tactics that are relevant to me. So you were giving us an overview of the 6 tactics.
Right.
But if you come into a refinery.
Right, it's gonna be specialized to that.
I don't need to know about
Right.
forest fires.
No, I mean, honestly, if I go into a refinery, it's all gonna be, it's either gonna be a trailer or it's gonna be fixed.
Yeah, and so again, to James's point, knowing when it doesn't work for me.
Right.
If you can point out the times it won't work for me, then I won't be trying to nitpick your presentation and nitpick all the ways it won't work, because I know it won't work in every situation.
Right.
And the piece about it being functional with gels and foam in addition to water, I think that's really cool. So elaborate on that in your presentation.
Okay.
But yeah, this was great. Thanks, John. Last one, Mark.
Sure. So I think you've got an opportunity to tighten up your presentation.
I got
kind of
the
that following up on we have to channel Cindy because Cindy's not here. And personally speaking, I would say, I think you've got an opportunity for 4 30-second slides tops, maybe more like 15-second slides. Efficacy, because you talked about it is more efficacious regardless of the medium you're using, water or gel or whatever. Boom, slide on efficacy, slide on safety, because it's very interesting. You can be that much further away. So unless you have to run into the burning building to save someone, fire staff is that much safer. That's interesting. There's a broader range of applications, like this is potentially a tool to fight the Marshall Fire when nothing else will work. And then finally, follow up with cost, right? But I think if you watched your verbiage, I don't see any reason each one of those slides could be 15 to 30 seconds. And even if they're only 30 seconds, that's 2 minutes of your presentation, but that's like the meat, right? We've gone through the soup and salad course. I'm already interested in what you have to say. Like throw me 2 minutes of meat tops, and I feel like you'll get a lot of people on board.
Okay, cool. I appreciate the feedback. I do, because that's how I grow.
Well, one thing I always think about with pitches is one problem, one solution, and
next step.
Yeah,
and that's why I tried doing with that slide was.
There was a chat comment that came up and then went away. I think it was from Michael.
Marcus, can you see the chat comment?
That was the ask
Sure.
of going for an hour and a half versus 30 minutes. So like they're saying it's a lot easier to get in for 30 minutes and let it organically grow to a longer than 30 minutes than asking for an hour and a half of somebody's time.
Cool. Cool. Thanks, John.
You bet.
All right, let's, we will wrap things up. Who has some community announcements? What's going on in Northern Colorado, and Fort Collins, in the entrepreneurial space? Not much. January's quiet. Leandra,
Well, so I'm working on this whole marketing thing that people talk about.
that's hard.
Yes, and I'm not actually doing it last minute this time. So double your profits in 30 days is coming up in April, and I'm leading into it with a Wealthy Women Don't Pinch Pennies like webinar, free webinar.
Ben Franklin was wrong.
He's a man, and we're talking about women. Women do it better. And since I'm the only woman here, I'm just, I'm gonna take that stage.
Excellent. All right.
So this was a
Oh,
question.
Natalie's.
Is anyone hear about Startup Week this year?
That is
Yeah.
being moved back
Yeah, to September.
at request of the city. So it's later. I don't know if they have a specific date range yet, but I think it's gonna be early fall.
Yeah,
I think it was in
Jana said,
September. That's the last I heard.
Yeah, Jana said a couple of weeks ago, I think it was gonna be moved to like September, which is gonna match with Denver Startup Week, but I guess it hasn't, we don't have definite dates yet.
Okay.
There's a Fort Collins Internet Professionals group. I'll throw the meetup in the chat, but Candace Ederlin.
Candace Edelin, yeah, Candace.
Candace Edelin, she's presenting to this group on how to use LinkedIn to engage with ideal customers. Her stuff's fantastic. It's a free meetup group. It's on Tuesday, February 15th at 6 p.m. So just check it out. You do need to RSVP through Meetup, but that would be a great presentation for sure if you're trying to prospect through LinkedIn. She's all about researching your ideal customers. James.
We've got a shot at joining the Y Combinator spring program, and I'm just looking for anybody who might know of somebody who's been through it that I can do a little research on. So, anybody, please send them my way.
Remind us what the Y Combinator is.
Yeah.
Y Combinator is probably the top accelerator in the US. They are very funding oriented. So they kind of look at like Founders Institute or Founder Institute gets you the basic tools. Y Combinator is the next step toward actual money. And then Y Combinator tends to sell, they tend to stay involved through the bigger rounds of funding. They fund up to 20 million. So just to be accepted into the program is $125,000 that they guarantee on it.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
No, go ahead, Dana. I had a question to see how we can help. Who was speaking?
Natalie, go ahead. I think you know more about the Y Combinator.
What? No, because that was one. I'm pretty sure there's somebody. I don't think it's Tilt, but someone around that may have gone there. But as an applicant or potential in there, do you have a way of seeing the list of past companies that went through that? And in which case, then if you run it by the community here, we should be able to then say, yeah, these are people we know, we interact with.
Bill, do you know anyone who's gone through that?
I don't, but Natalie, that's a good suggestion, is let's get a list of the companies, because we may not keep track for that long, or it may have taken 5 years.
Yeah.
But if we can get a list of the companies, I think we could, amongst several of us, maybe identify some owners.
Yeah,
Because I unfortunately don't remember off the top of my head, but actually Jana may remember. I'm pretty sure that we definitely have one or two, not far from the community that at least were reached a certain stage, but unfortunately, I can't tell you off the bat. So if there's some names are there, we can help.
I will do that. And just some names that they've been involved with,
Yeah.
Airbnb, Dropbox.
Right, well, that's, okay.
So the other suggestion is to send a note to somebody at RVC.
Yeah, right,
And I'm sure they've got people that have graduated from RVC and moved on, but.
yes. Yeah, RVC or we can see with, Scott Strake at CSU, but generally it would be more from RVC that would be more direct.
Yeah, Kevin Kurta would be a good guy, Kurda. He's their deal flow guy
Yeah.
at RVC.
Great. Natalie, what do we look like for presentations over the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, so next week we were supposed to have 2, but one of the speakers actually asked to be postponed until a later date, non-determined. So we only have 1 speaker next week. So if someone else wants to come forward, otherwise the person is Renee Walkup that you all know, and she has a new business. So as I mentioned to the group, I think she, if she has a little bit more time, she'll be good with that as well, if we only have 1, but if anyone else knows anyone. Let me look at the schedule for after that. So then early February, first week in February, we have Jenny, who's going to talk about her business writing book, and then another company called Orna Vera. So Jay Anderson, I'd met at the what's this thing called, the Montfort a couple years ago as a judge. So asked him to come and talk about his company's agriculture. And then the 9th and the 16th for so far I only have 1 presenter, so still looking for second one. So we've got Ariana coming on the 9th, and then the cooking studio on the 16th.
So if you
there's still some open slots in February, and we're starting to work on March. So as always, any ideas? I know Cindy is going to take one of those. I'll reach out to her for an educational setup. But if anybody else, again, in your surroundings.
do you have any friends that started a business last year or they're about to?
Yeah, and then as we, we've said several times, nonprofits as well. All of us are all, volunteers or donors or whatever, nonprofits. They struggle sometimes, and it's could be helpful for them to come to. It's a good opportunity. So.
All right, thanks, Natalie. And we'll dismiss, but I hate to dismiss without asking, does anyone need any help? What can we help with? Need any connections, information? You guys are set.
I have about $500,000
Laying around.
What?
Chiropractor recommendations for John.
Novocaine.
Novocaine. All right. Well, thanks for joining us online. We will see you all next week. Be careful out there on the roads. They're still icy.